Of course, I didn't start sharing all my personal troubles right from the beginning, right? That might really throw people off or put people off, but it's a journey as I grow personally and also in my business. And I know that there are more and more people staying with me for a longer period of time. Then I started becoming more comfortable sharing my personal parts of my personal life.
Welcome to Who Cares About My Story, the podcast on how sharing your personal brand story can impact your business. We will explore the perks and also the behind-the-scenes challenges of figuring out what to share. I'm your host, Reme Mancera, a personal brand strategist who loves finding the story connectors that illustrate the benefits of what you offer. And by the way, you don't need a Hollywood style for that. In case you ever wonder, remember, your story is relevant and worth telling. Hey there! I am looking forward to bringing you today's episode. Our guest is Faith Lee, an online business coach and the owner of faithbizacademy.com. Through her courses, she has taught more than 12,000 aspiring online entrepreneurs how to build a profitable business selling easy-to-create digital products. She shared with us her journey to becoming a successful entrepreneur while maintaining her role as the primary caregiver for her 3 children. During our chat, Faith covers some of her pivotal moments and how she decided what to share and what not. She talks about the moment when she needed to take a break to rethink the direction of her business and what the response from her community was. She also tells us about her experience facing one of the most significant failures of her life and the lessons that she got from there. Faith also highlights how being honest and transparent about her story has helped her foster trust and loyalty with her supportive community. Don't miss this conversation. It might inspire you to use your story to keep chasing your dreams and prioritize what truly matters to you. Now, let's jump in. Hello, Faith. Welcome to Who Cares About My Story. Thank you for accepting the invitation. I am delighted to have you here and looking forward to have this conversation.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for having me, Remy. I am very delighted and excited to be here.
Cool. So let's start. Please tell us who you are and what you do.
Okay, so I'm Faith Lee. I'm an online business coach and I'm the owner of faithbizacademy.com. So I help aspiring online entrepreneurs build a thriving and profitable online business through selling and creating easy to create digital products as well as sleaze-free email marketing.
Cool. So how did you get here? What's your story?
I started blogging back in 2018, and to put it really bluntly, money was the motivation. I had a day job as an insurance agent, but my sales were going down because after I had my 3rd kid, I had to like majorly cut down time on work. So, my income greatly suffered. I didn't have much money. I didn't have any savings. And I really just wanted to be able to work from home and build a side hustle and just earn like $500 a month. That was my initial goal. Just have that $500 a month. That would be so helpful in paying for my bills and groceries and stuff like that, right? Then I've been reading online about different ways to make money online. I was doing paid book reviews. I was doing some freelance proofreading and stuff like that. But of course, it was really small money, but it helped, right? Every little bit helped. Then I was reading a lot about how other moms were building successful side hustles, online. And that got me really intrigued. And I started reading more, searching for free courses and stuff like that. And I realized that, oh, maybe I could build an online business too. So I started blogging in 2018. Then it took me a while to realize that it's not that easy to make money. It's not just about writing articles and then hoping that people will find me and stuff like that. There's so much more stuff that goes on behind the scenes, right? SEO, and then, learning how to draw people in, collect email addresses, lead magnets, and stuff like that. So I learned a lot along the way, and I finally had an income breakthrough in 2020, late 2020. And then that really like changed my life, right? That was the first time I made $1,000 within a month for my online business in September 2020. And then things started improving and growing really well from then on. And I mean, I was so excited about the fact that I could still be the main caregiver to my three children and have a business that pays me, while I'm working from home. So I really feel the freedom, the sense of liberation that I could now more than pay for bills. I could save up, I could start paying for family vacations and stuff like that. And I really want other people to feel so, especially women, especially moms, and even just caregivers. I know um there are so many women out there who are actually giving, caregivers to their elderly parents and other family members, not necessarily their children, but the ability to run an online business that pays you while you still prioritize your family is so, so important. And that was when I decided to also run basically online coaching services so that other people can have an online business that pays them well and allow them to prioritize the other important things in life. I'm sorry, that was like such a really long answer,
No, no,
but
it's perfect. Yeah, yeah, because we can see like the journey there. So, how do you think sharing your story has impacted your business?
I think a large part of me being able to engage my audience is always coming across as transparent and as honest as possible. And like I said, like even just upfront, right? I said, I'm in this for the money. I'm not gonna hide the fact that I'm doing this to make money. Of course, there are times where I create a lot of free content, like my YouTube channel, or give away free stuff to help people. But at the end of the day, I do have products and services that I need to sell. And I'm not afraid to say that because the truth is, I do need the money to feed my family, right? Three kids. And then when I am, just unabashedly telling people the honest truth, I feel that it really makes me a lot more relatable. And there are times where I also tell people about, things that happen in the family. That were a couple of times in the last 3 years that my daughter was hospitalized, and there I was writing emails beside my hospital, my daughter's hospital bed, and the truth is there are so many people struggling with long-term chronic illnesses themselves, or dealing once again like caregiving to family members who are unwell. So when of course we're not talking about like sob stories and and drowning in our own sorrows, but really just telling people honestly like, oh, I'm gonna miss the deadline for a such and such because I'm at a hospital with my daughter. And then there are people who can so relate to that because they are struggling too, right? Sometimes we just have to be really upfront with our real struggles, because now everything, especially on social media, they are also curated, and there's a part where people really aspire to achieve much greater things, but when they see all the well manicured and curated content, they start to wonder if they are capable of achieving more. So I feel that in my small way, when I share my struggles, or I share how, the real troubles in life, right? People can relate to that. And I hope that that also inspires other people to, give them a sense of hope that it is also possible for them, even with all the other personal struggles that they go through, even if there's self-doubt, they struggle with self-worth and all that. Because I went through all that, and I feel like when I share snippets of that, people can relate, and it inspires them to also strive to achieve what they want to achieve.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I love that you bring that about your how you share when your daughter was hospitalized, because for some people, they are concerned about the level of privacy on what to share and what not. And I used to tell them that you are the one deciding which is the level of detail that you want to share. But the most important part is the lesson that you got from that experience or from that moment. And sharing that, as you said, is a way to people will resonate. They'll see you as an example of how it's possible to run your business, even if things get like not so easy. You are able to just honestly share about that with your community. They'll understand you, and the connection between you and them will become stronger after that honest process. So love that you bring that.
Yeah. I guess is really true. I mean, I've got clients asking me also about what to write in their emails. When is it too much, right? As you have mentioned, is really about is completely subjective. It's up to your own personal comfort level, right? Of course, I didn't start sharing all my personal troubles right from the beginning, right? That might really throw people off or put people off, but it's a journey. As I grow personally and also in my business, and I know that there are more and more people staying with me for a longer period of time, then I started becoming more comfortable sharing my personal parts of my personal life. Yeah. And I think it's also important not to end up whining too much, you know. But I think I'm always very mindful to make sure that people don't think that I have a perfect life. Like I'm not a celebrity. I don't consider myself as like a influencer on social media. So I really want people to know that it is possible to have so many struggles and yet still build a business that is continually growing. Yeah, I think that is very, very important to me. And I would share personal stories based on partly, I would say necessity. Like I mentioned, when I was at the hospital with my daughter, it was because I was missing some deadlines for my membership program, right? I had monthly deliverables that need to be sent to my clients by a certain date of the month. So I couldn't do it, and I just told them because I couldn't, and that was a reason why. And there are times where there are other like health crises in the family, and sometimes I know that there are people who pray for my family, or they send good vibes through the airways and stuff like that. Yeah, so sometimes I would say selfishly, because I'm struggling so much emotionally and mentally, sometimes I do share a bit so that I can get some kind of community support. And like you said, and then people, other people start sharing their stories with you because they can relate. And then you really engage your community, not so much on the business front anymore, but really seeing people as people and then building that connection with your community.
Yeah, and I think that human connection is so important. And yeah, business will come later if you have a real connection with people, because they trust you, they resonate with you, and they want to share with you and support you in the hard times. So that's really a real relationship there. And I love when you take care of your community, because that's going to help you in the long term for your business. In the in any capacity, it's going to help you like as a person, but for your business it's good for the long term. So I love that. And I love what you mentioned about um, how sharing that is helping them realize that, yeah, you don't need to be perfect for this to work. So it's making them like see how real it is for the good and the bad, and but it's possible. So the hope of, okay, you can go, this is something available, you can do it.
Yes, yes, that's right. Yeah.
Nice. Have you some point have some unexpected challenges in sharing your story?
Mm, I think once I started engaging my community, mainly through emails, right? So building email marketing is the main driver of my business. I send newsletters very regularly to my subscribers. So of course, at the start, as my business started picking up, it was really focused on delivering value. Like, how can I help my subscribers now that you have given me the trust to send you email to visit your inbox, right? What can I do to value add to you? So that was always the main objective, right? It has to be value centered. It has to be whatever content that I create has to be centered around the people I want to speak with, I want to reach out to. So it was very intentional. I would say it always has to be very intentional about the value I want to bring to my people and therefore deciding what kind of content. So once I got comfortable understanding what my audience wants, then the personal stories start to kind of leak out with inverted commas. Yeah, so I don't think there was any major significant challenges per se, but it's, I would say it's really a journey. Like as I build my business, as I start focusing on different types of products and services that meet the needs of my audience and understanding them, then the confidence in myself and my business also grows. You know, then I am bolder in a way to share more snippets of my personal story, because then I also realize that people, in a certain way, people look up to me for guidance for the business. But like I said just now, it is also important that they don't see me as like some perfect figure, or yeah, like I'm as normal as anybody else. Does that answer your
Yeah.
question?
Yes. And you know that the name of this podcast is Who Cares About My Story? And this is an expression that sometimes people that are asking me for my help and clients, they start have this thought of why should I share my story? What, yeah, that it makes sense or not. And I would like to know if you have ever questioned yourself about, who is going to care about my story?
Yeah, I guess the it's similar to the question, right? Like do you ever get imposter syndrome? Right? Yeah, because
Mm.
like who cares? Who cares what I have to say? Who cares about um paying me so that I could coach them for their business? You know, like what makes me qualify? Why should they listen to me? So yes, there was definitely a time where I really struggled with that, especially when I was just starting out. But once again, because I guess it was the motivation that I really needed the money. I needed my business to work. You know, I needed the business to run, to grow, so that I could have that $500 more a month to pay for bills. So that, in a sense, that desperation just kept me going. Like even if there were doubts about my ability to create products, or be able to attract the right people who are willing to pay for my products and services, the the motivation to make it work was greater than the fear, so then I just kept pressing on. And um I always believe that everybody has something to share. I do not like the term expert. I've never labeled myself as an expert, and I don't enjoy that. And I think sometimes we use that term so loosely that it either stresses people out or it loses its meaning, right? So the question is, who really cares about my story? The thing is, somebody who can relate to you. How many million billion people are there in the world, right? There are people who can relate to your story. You will not appeal to everybody, which is fine, which is realistic, right? There will be people who dislike us, but there will be people who love us just because we can connect. So we just have to keep in mind that as long as there is a group of people we can appeal to, I think that is most important, right? And I would say just be genuine. I think that is so, so important. Being authentic, being willing to share openly, being unafraid to admit that there are things that you cannot do, or your flaws, or your imperfections, because that is what makes you real. And everyone has some kind of imperfections, and you can relate to those people, right? Like, for example, there are people who love coffee, who don't love coffee, and I like the color pink, and some people hate it, but there will always be people who can appeal to. So just focus on sharing your story, your experience, because somebody needs to hear it. Somebody needs to hear it. Yeah. Not everybody, but someone does. Yeah. So it's so important that everybody can bring something different to the table. I know there are so many bloggers out there. There are so many online business owners, so many online coaches out there, but you will be able to appeal to some people. And I think that is what matters. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that you bring that because, in my opinion, your experience, your story is going to help people understand your journey and really connect with you and see why choose you or why don't, which is okay. Because at the end of the day, we would like people to make a decision, and it can be not now. So it's we don't know, but of course it's going to, if this story, sharing that moment, sharing that lesson is helping a person of your audience, is already a good place to start, because then you can create real connections, as we were talking before. And something else, and I you mentioned this earlier, about how at the beginning sharing your story can be more challenging, and then you get practice and you get more comfortable, and you might be going to share more details if you feel like, and you will see, and as million other things, it goes to practice. So practice will give you that information, will see how this feels, you will get the feedback from the people, and all that will help you too.
Yes, yes. And I think I guess we can see it as like when meeting a new friend, right? We're not gonna start pouring out our our deepest, darkest secrets to a new friend, right? Like when somebody comes into your sphere or your community for the first time, or joins your email list for the first time, it's as if you're making a friend, a new friend. So you're gonna start with an introduction, you can have review some fun facts about yourself that is not too emotional, but and then over time, as you talk more, as you write the emails, imagine that you're writing to a friend, right? You're writing to a friend, you're telling them something, and if you come across a really lovely restaurant that you went to, it's going to be easy for you to tell your friend that. It's just like how like you purchase the software and you really love it, then it becomes the business term is like affiliate marketing, right? But in actual fact, you're just like you're loving this so much, you just want to tell your friend about it. So there's nothing salesy about it. So you're telling your friend that this works so well for you and you think it's gonna work well for them too. And then as you regularly chat with that friend, you will be more and more comfortable sharing other things, right? Other more personal snippets. Yeah. So it takes time, but if you imagine that you're writing for emails per se, if you imagine you're writing to one person, I think it will be a lot less intimidating.
Yeah, thank you for that tip. Can you tell us about a significant moment when you made some kind of pivot in your business?
Hmm. I would say there are probably two, because essentially I would say they're all different in nature, right? The first pivoting moment would be in September 2020, which I briefly mentioned just now. That was when I had that business breakthrough that I was struggling since 2018. I started out, I was hardly making any money, but then I discovered a niche that I realized that I could fit in and that I could create products for that and the market, and there was demand, and therefore people were willing to pay, and therefore I could increase my income. So that was a breakthrough. That was a turning point in my business. And the fact that people started buying my products was a huge boost in my confidence, right? Like that people are willing to pay for my products. This means that they see a certain value and quality in it. And therefore, yeah, it really helped me in my self-confidence as well as the confidence in my business. So that was one moment. And then the other one that was significant was in the middle of last year. So it's not so much about income breakthrough, but it was like a mindset change. I think I was working so much and so hard until um like I just really needed to step back. I needed to step back to restructure and see how I could readjust my business systems and processes so that it's more sustainable. You know, being a one-man show, it has to be sustainable. So then after that, it was also thinking about how I had to close down certain programs because they were not getting enough responses, and therefore I needed to really have like a bird's eye view of my entire business to rethink which direction I want to go. Yeah, so I felt it was more of a mindset thing, having there was some doubt, like, can I do this? Oh, I'm too tired. Should I stop? Or what should I stop? Or what am I gonna do after that? Yeah, so it was really like just taking a break, just breathing, and then re-looking at everything before coming back to it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And in the case of this second one, the mindset change, how did you decide what to share or how to communicate this change in the structure of your business to your community, to the people in your audience? How you decided to communicate that change?
So the I realized that I needed that change because I had a panic attack um sometime in April. And I signed up for a program where I was working with a coach. And she just said that you need to take a break. You need to have like a day off without thinking about work at all. And I just told her that, no, I can't. you know, and then that made me realize that, oh, actually, I really need to. So once again, it's back to because I've already come to a point where I'm pretty comfortable with telling my community. So I basically told them what happened, that I think I am too overwhelmed with whatever that I decided to take up, all the programs that I'm running, and I really need the break, and I will, give me some time. I'm going on a family vacation. You might not hear from me for the next 2 weeks, but I'll be back. Yeah. So um because I keep my newsletters, my email newsletters so regularly on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, people have come to expect when I pop into the inbox, right? So that regularity helps people know when to expect me. And therefore, when I am not around or I disappear, people will know. So it's really like telling my friends, hey, I just need some time out, but I'll be back, I'm not just disappearing for good. I do need to kind of rethink some things, there could be some changes, but like, please be patient with me, So it's really back to the whole idea of being transparent with your people.
Mm, nice. What was their response?
Most people are really nice. They would send like well wishes, like enjoy your family vacation. We're still gonna be here. Like, I'm so sorry to hear about your panic attacks. And then there are some people who also sent me stuff like herbal remedies,
Okay.
or like videos or podcasts they listen to for meditation. So that's really nice. As in, those were really unexpected. Like there I am just telling them my struggle, really, right? That was exactly what was happening, and then people were actually offering solutions. So it's really that friendly relationship that you have with your subscribers, your community, and then them supporting you back because they value what you have been doing for them. Yeah.
Mm, yeah, and I love how you said that this was unexpected because sometimes we are just thinking how they are going to take this or how is going to be their feelings and that, and at the end it's just they go back to you and it's much better. They understand that you are a person, and I think this come back to the idea that you shared about how you don't want to look like someone perfect. There is all these things happening, like the good and the bad. And then sharing about that is also giving them permission to, okay, there is certain points with highs and lows, but it's going to be okay. You are going to find your way to do it. So, yeah, I think that's a real good example of how to handle that and how building that honest relationship with them is paying back because yes, you have just a relationship with your community and they trust you and they support you. So yeah, nice. Cool. So uh, that's something else that I would like to mention is how that moment when your coach asked you to stop and you said not possible. How do you think having that external point of view has helped you? Because sometimes we are so immersed in our businesses or in our stories that we cannot see like the big picture. How has been your experience around that?
I think it's important to surround yourself with people you trust, people whom you can. So that, I mean, we were talking about being honest with our subscribers, right? Like as a whole community. But even then, it's really important to be able to find like your business buddies or anybody or a coach, somebody who can give you advice, or if it's a peer, then somebody whom you can really just be honest with them about your struggles and ask them for suggestions or feedback and opinions. Yeah. So um I I didn't always have uh I mean, how do I say this? I didn't really have a community when I first started out. For those of you who are not familiar with me, I'm actually living in Singapore, which is in Asia, which is very far from most of my clients and my audience. Like I would say 90% of my audience comes from the US and the UK. So when I first started out and I was trying to find myself communities, I was lurking around on different Facebook groups, blogger groups and stuff like that. So I have a very Asian face. I have a Chinese name, which is Xuan Wei. That's my birth name. My Facebook profile, personal profile, goes by that name. So when I started like answering questions or participating in those sharing threads, there was times where my comments were met with pretty nasty remarks. Like, I think people don't think I understand English because of my name or because of the way I look. So it was quite sad that I really didn't have any community. Like my family and friends didn't know what I was doing online, and I couldn't find people to connect with online. So
Mm.
it was only until in 2020 when I found that niche, and then I realized that, and somehow the community was so welcoming, and I finally felt like I belonged somewhere. So community is so important to me because of my personal experience at the beginning, which is why I also want to attract people or make sure that people know that they are welcome, to have that I can now somehow lead or facilitate a community where more people are welcome, right? No matter what phase of business development, no matter where you are at in geographically in the world, right? How you look like, how you sound like, that you have a safe place to go to. But even within that mass community, slowly I started talking to individuals. Most of them actually started as like my clients, like they purchase courses from me, they go through my coaching programs, but then like something clicked, like you could hit off so well with certain people, right? Yeah. And then after that, we started having like private chats, and they have been so supportive. So even I would say like the darkest days, like where I had to struggle with health crisis within my family, the time where I had that panic attack and I felt so overwhelmed with work. There were other times where I received really nasty emails from certain people. And there are those times where it's not always ideal to whine and rant in front of the larger community. So having those few people whom you can trust and really like pour your heart out to is so important. Like I had that coach, it was actually my first day meeting that coach, my coach, on Zoom call. And that was the day where I had that panic attack. And that was when she told me, you got to take a break, which was totally unexpected. I didn't expect the first time to meet a coach to tell me to take a break from my business. But it was exactly what I needed. And then it's also about reaching out to those individuals whom I can trust and then hearing them, I don't know, just giving me feedback on what can be done better, or just ranting to them like a friend, right? Like when you need a listening ear. I'm so sorry, I'm so long-winded.
It's okay. This is about having a conversation, so it's perfect. And I love how your own story at the beginning of your business is connected to how important for you is the community and having a welcoming, safe space for people, because that can illustrate how you know how it is. You know how lonely can be feeling that, yeah, you maybe have people that support you, but they don't really understand what you're trying to do. And they love you, but they don't really know what is happening in your business. And having that trusting circle of people that you can go and reach out to them and all that. Yeah, I totally agree on that. How important it is to have this environment of people that, yeah, you can trust them, you can share with them, they can give you your feedback, and you know that they are going to give you honest feedback and being trying to give you the best advice for trying to take care of yourself. So yeah, I totally agree on that point. So back to your story, what would you say is the part of your personal brand story that surprises people the most?
Um, the fact that I wanted to be a doctor.
Okay.
And I studied really hard when I was a student. I got the grades that were required, but I failed the interview. I graduated with a degree in pharmacy, but I did not become a pharmacist. Um, and that I wanted to be a singer. So, but to me, it was failure after failure. I failed to become a doctor. Um, I failed to be a pharmacist, even though it was by choice. And then I failed to become a singer that I wanted to be. And I did become an insurance agent, but even then, I think I failed at it because my sales were pretty pathetic. So there was one particular email at some point in time where I did tell my subscribers this whole story about all my failures. Like to me, they were really failures, and to me, they were significant failures in my life, especially when I did not get into medical school. Like that was the most devastating part. at age 18, that was like the worst thing ever, Yeah. And then I just felt like, for all the things that I wanted to do, I didn't achieve that. And I definitely did not have never thought of being an entrepreneur. But somehow I did because of circumstances, because of my kids, because I I hardly worked at my day job as an insurance agent anymore because of the children, and therefore the desperation for more money drove me to looking for avenues online, right? So the it was one of the most emotional emails that I've written, I think. And just telling people that actually I failed so many times. I mean, yeah, it might not seem big to you, but to me, those were really important turning points in my life because each time I did not achieve or accomplish what I wanted to achieve.
Mm.
But it's okay because now, even though it was never something that I've imagined it, but now I do have a profitable online business. I am proud to tell people that I have single-handedly built my business to what it is today while being the main caregiver to my 3 children. And once again, it's relatable because not everybody wants to be a doctor, of course, but there are so many people out there who are trying to build an online business, but do not have any business education background. Yeah. Or they have failed in other ways, right? Other dreams were shattered because life has thrown them curveballs, right? But now is the chance to use or build a business that pays them well enough so that they can achieve other goals or other dreams. Yeah, so I think that was, just really admitting people, like telling people how many times I failed in the past was a huge part of my personal brand story.
And I love that how even if someone doesn't want it to be a doctor, every one of us can think about something that we were dreaming of, and then somehow we didn't achieve that, and the feeling that that's bringing us. So that's why I think it's important to share our stories, because the other person doesn't need to have life something completely the same to understand the feelings that is giving you, and the lessons that it is bringing that moment. So that's why even if the other person was not in the same situation, they can relate to some point of that story and that feeling of overwhelming because you didn't get to achieve what you think, and then you try something new, and then again doesn't was the right thing. And so having that feeling, we can think about similar stories for ourselves, so we understand that that process of, yeah, you are trying your dream and then you didn't get that, but then you finally get something that, yeah, this was it, even if I didn't think about that at the beginning. So yeah, I think that can illustrate good well how sharing your story can help you build that connection with your audience.
Exactly. I think it's a lot harder to relate to somebody who just comes and tell you that, oh, it was so easy for me. You know, like I made 100,000 in a month, like without doing anything. It's a lot
Yeah,
harder. I mean, of course, there are people who manage to achieve amazing things, right? But most of us would probably have to take a lot longer to get to where we want. And most of us would have also had our hearts broken, our dreams shattered in different ways
yeah,
before we get something, or we get something that we didn't expect, right? Yeah. So
yeah,
um it's like a movie, right? Like there's always like some kind of conflict or struggle, and we like to root for the underdog, and then sometimes we are the underdog, and then when we share our story with somebody else, it makes us a whole lot more relatable, and the business or whatever that we want to the message you want to convey is a lot more convincing, right? Because
Yeah.
now they know that you're a real person. You're not Chat GPT.
Yeah, yeah, you have the highs and the lows, and yeah, that's why you are trustworthy because you are a real human, not just someone pretending to be someone else. So yeah, absolutely. Okay, this has been so nice. So please share with us how can people find out more about what you do and learn more about how can help them.
Okay, so my website is at faithsbizzacademy.com. I think we will be able to share the links to the website,
Mhm.
as well as my YouTube channel. If you're interested in learning how to do designing on Canva, that's what my channel is mainly about. My YouTube channel has lots of Canva tutorials. And yeah, sign up for my free Canva templates, and then you could hear more from me, not just random newsletters, but you're gonna get Canva design tips, email marketing tips, tips on how to, create and sell digital products and stuff like that. So I do hope to be able to give you a lot of value, especially if you're trying to build and grow your online business.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you for sharing your experiences and your insights and to be so open also here with us. And I really appreciate for having you here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Remy. Thank you, everybody, for listening in.
So see you soon. Thanks for tuning in to Who Cares About My Story, the podcast on how sharing your personal brand story can impact your business. If you found this episode valuable, consider subscribing or leaving a review. Your feedback means a lot. Did something resonate with you today? Please share your thoughts on the podcast platform or on your socials. I would love to hear from you and give you a shout out. Just tag me on Instagram at Reme Mancera. I can't wait for you to meet our next guest. Until then, remember, your story is relevant and worth telling.